Hey everyone, welcome to Crafting with JC. In today's video, I am sharing 10 gorgeous lantern DIYs, some that I've done in the past as well as some new ones. These lanterns are perfect for decorating your home for the holidays or any time of the year. So let's get started. For this project, I will be using 2 of these wood plank which I got at Dollar Tree. They are 2 by 18 inches. I'll also be using this 6-inch wood pallet from Dollar Tree as well. I'm going to make a lantern, so first I determined the height. So I stand up the 2 planks and I decided to cut off about 6 1/8 inch, which is the width of the pallet. That way I would have enough wood to make the top without needing an extra plank. So I measure, mark, and trim the wood. I apply some wood glue on both sides of the pallet like so, and this will be the base of the lantern. And then I stand and adhere to that the 2 planks, which makes the sides. And I just get a couple wood blocks, you can use books or boxes, and I push that against the plank to hold it in place while I apply glue on the wood that will go on top. So I glue the 6-inch wood to the top, and then to hold it, because I'm using wood glue, I wrap some painter's tape around it to keep it in place. When that is dried, I peel off the tape, and wow, I was so surprised how sturdy this felt. But to make sure it's even more sturdy and not going to fall apart, I will be gluing some wood pieces on the corners. A couple of options: you can glue tumbling tower blocks on the corners like so, 2 on the top and 2 on the bottom, and you wouldn't have to do any trimming. But I decided to go with some 1/4 inch dowels, which I cut and then I glued to the 4 corners. To glue to the top, I just flip it over. I decided to paint the lantern white with white acrylic paint and thin it out with just a little bit of water. This would have also been so beautiful stained as well as painted, a warm green or vintage red or spray painted gold for this time of year. So I brush the paint all over and then I let that dry completely. Once it has completely dried, I give it a very light sanding. And that is it for this one. I really love how this turned out. This came out exactly the way I wanted. You can display candles or flowers, so simple yet beautiful. I will be making a 12-inch wooden lantern. You'll need 20 12-inch paint sticks, and I got a pack of 10 for under $1 at Home Depot. So I start by gluing 2 sticks together to form an L. The paint stick that I just applied glue on, I lay that down flat, and then I take another paint stick and I lay that upright on its side, making sure it's on the bottom of the first paint stick, and I push those 2 together. You want to make sure that they're glued at a 90-degree angle, so I take a wooden block and push it up against that just to make sure it's exactly that. And I make 2 of those. For the remaining paint sticks, I do the same thing, but this time glue the upright paint stick on the opposite side or on top like so, and I'll make 2 of those as well. And again, I use my block to make sure they dry at a 90-degree angle. I'm going to cut the remaining 12 paint sticks down to about 7 inches. You can use a miter box and saw to do that, or if you don't have one or just want to simplify, you can use Super Jumbo craft sticks instead. The lantern will just be a tad bit narrower, not by much, just trim off those curved ends. So once the remaining paint sticks are cut, I form the lantern. I take an L-shaped paint stick and I apply glue on the bottom and attach a 7-inch paint stick like so. Then I take another L shape, one that was glued the opposite way, and glue that on the bottom right. And you can glue this in any order. Once that is dried a bit, I turn it and take another 7-inch paint stick and apply glue on one end and attach that on the bottom of the standing paint stick, making sure it's pushed all the way to the side, covering the exposed end of the previous 7-inch paint stick. Then apply glue on another L shape and attach it like so, And I did leave a little bit of the end of this 7-inch paint stick exposed because it will need to cover up the end of this paint stick. Thank goodness with this wood glue, I do have a few minutes to make any adjustments before it completely sets. Now this will actually be the top of the lantern, and so once I finish applying the paint sticks, I turn it over and work on the bottom. And I'm going to glue and place the 7-inch paint sticks exactly the way I did on top. Then I finish gluing the rest of the paint sticks. Once that's dried a bit, I lay it down on its side. I want to cover up those curved handles. You can leave it as is if you want, but I thought it would add a nice detail if I added another 7-inch wood over that. I placed a jumbo craft stick between the two just so it's glued evenly, and I was surprised how that fit just perfectly. So I glue that all around, and wow, I really love that extra detail and I'm glad I added it. To make the base, you'll need 8 tumbling blocks and 6 super jumbo craft sticks. I line the craft sticks, place the lantern on top, and make my mark. And just note that the 2 sticks at the end will be slightly smaller. So I cut them down, then glue the tumbling blocks like so, and then glue down the craft sticks. I'm going to paint this lantern with black acrylic paint, so I apply that all over and let that dry a bit, and then make any needed touch-ups. Every time I think I'm done painting, there's always a missed spot. I'm not adding a cover, I'm going to leave the top open. Now you can leave it like this, but I thought I would add one more detail on top, and again, this is completely optional. So I place 4 super jumbo craft sticks on top, like so. I measure cut and paint them black, then I glue them down, and you really want to press down so that it lays flat on top. Otherwise, there will be gaps, so press firmly, clamp it down with painter's tape or even electrical tape. And let me just say, in the end, it looks so beautiful and well put together. I really love how this turned out. Today's video is sponsored by SkillShare. SkillShare is an online learning community with thousands of online classes that you can take to inspire you and learn new skills. From creative writing, to music, to leveling up your cooking skills. I recently took a class called Edit Perfect Images Using Only Your Phone, the only 3 apps you'll ever need, taught by Peggy Dean. The instructor shared not only the apps that you will ever need to edit your photos with, but also how to enhance your photos to make them bright and vivid. I do often use my phone to take photos of my projects to use in my videos and social media, and so making sure they look amazing is very important. And right now, the first 1,000 people to use the link below will get a 1-month free trial of SkillShare. So whether you want to perfect a new creative hobby, land a new career, or launch your business, try out a risk-free 30-day trial to test it out yourself. I'm going to make a tall lantern, which is perfect for fall. I bought this pack of 15-inch bamboo sticks on Amazon, and I'm going to use 16 of these for this project. I'll also be using about 8 of these 1/4-inch balsa wood square dowels, which are 12 inches long. To make the top and the base of the lantern, I'll be using this MDF board, which I got at Dollar Tree. The width of the board is 5 3/4 inch, so I marked that in the height to make a square. And to cut that out, I use a utility knife to score it several times until I can break it apart. And I make 2 of these. I glue 2 dowels together to make them thicker. You can also use 1/2-inch dowels as well, and I'll end up with 4 sets of these. I'm going to measure and cut the dowels to form a square that will fit nicely on top of the MDF square. So I cut out 2 to about 5 3/4 inch and 2 to about 5 1/4. But do measure each square to verify the length. Then on one of the squares, I glue the dowels on top, and this will be the base of the lantern. I'm using wood glue for longevity and just to give a little more time to make any adjustments, but you can certainly use hot glue as well. For the second set of dowels, I glue them together to form a square without gluing them directly on the MDF, which is going to be the lid of the lantern, but it should fit nicely on top. I'm going to paint everything black, but you can certainly paint or customize to your preference. So I brushed that on all over with a foam brush. I will be applying a couple coats of the paint to make sure everything is completely covered, and once the piece is finished, I will go back and touch up any areas needed. To assemble the lantern, I spread out and lay the base and the top on its side like so, and then I add a dab of glue to the top and bottom of a bamboo stick, and then I glue it down on a corner. Then I take another bamboo stick and I glue that down on the other corner. Then I clamp the two and flip it over to the opposite side and glue down 2 more bamboo sticks on those corners. I do stand it up to make sure the lantern is straight and stable, and if not, I make adjustments before the glue dries. This part is very important because if the lantern is tilted or it's not straight, it's going to be noticeable when the piece is complete. Then once those corners have dried, I add the rest of the bamboo. So on the 2 sides where I first glued the corners down, I will glue down a total of 5 spread out equally, and on the other 2 sides, I glue down 3 spread out equally. To make the lid, I'm going to use 7 tumbling tower blocks, and the 4 craft cubes are for the bottom of the base. So to match the rest of the lantern, I paint the blocks black. Then I glue 4 of the blocks together to form a rectangle. And for the remaining 3, I glue them together side by side. And I glue that on top of the rectangle. Now I did end up not gluing the craft cubes on the bottom. I did like it the way it was, but you can certainly add those as well. I love how this lantern turned out. You can place some flameless pillar candles in there. It goes perfect with any fall decor. You can even make a smaller version to make a set. I love it. I wanted to make a glass lantern, and so I went to the Dollar Tree looking through their jars, and there were so many great quality choices and options, and I decided to go with this glass jar. This is a little over 5.5 inch tall, but to me it actually feels bigger than that because it has a 4-inch diameter. I'll also be using these white marble accent stones. I open the package and drop the stones in the jar. As far as the amount, it really depends on you. I start off with about 1.5 inch in height. I'm going to be putting a votive candle in the middle, so I take a popsicle stick and move these stones around. I place the candle in the jar and drop some more stones all around it. On the top of the jar, I'm going to wrap this Canadian pine stem, which I got from Hobby Lobby, and I just wrap it on the top and then twist the ends to attach them together. And then I embellish with these little pine cones and berries from Hobby Lobby as well. So easy to make, and I love how it turned out. I'm going to be using these 1-inch square basswood carving blocks that I've had for some time, with 4 measuring at about 6 inches and 4 at 4 inches. You can also use square dowels, which you can find at Lowe's or Walmart. So first I stand up the longer pieces and I apply glue on the ends of a smaller piece, and then I form a U. And then I do it again, making another U. Then I take the remaining smaller pieces, apply glue on the ends as well, and I glue the U's together like so to form a square. Now, like I mentioned, these are 1 inch in diameter. They are quite thick, but you can use any size square dowels and trim to the height you want. Next, you will need 4 giant popsicle sticks, and I measure and mark them end to end on each side. And I take 2 more giant popsicle sticks and I measure and mark for the base. And then I cut and trim all the sticks down. To glue the popsicle sticks, I turn the wood piece over and I apply glue on the ends of the sticks and I glue them in place. I'm using wood glue, but hot glue works as well, and I glue the popsicle sticks on the remaining sides. To make the base, I glue down 4 tumbling blocks, gluing 2 on each side. Then I glue down the 3 popsicle sticks that I trimmed down. For color, I'm going to make a stain using acrylic paint, and I'm using Territorial Beige and Khaki from Apple Barrel, and I thin it down with a little bit of water. So I brush that on all over and I apply the paint on small sections, and then I wipe it down before it dries, and I wipe it down to expose the wood patterns underneath even more. And once that dries, I am done. This is such a pretty wood piece that can be used as a planter or a lantern. I just love how it turned out. For this project, you will need 30 tumbling tower blocks. I'm going to add some color to the blocks with Waverly Antique Wax. With a damp cloth, I rub the wax on the blocks, except on the ends. I'm going to form a rectangle with 10 blocks. I start off gluing 3 blocks together end to end, so 2 sides of the rectangle will have 3 blocks and the other 2 will have 2 blocks. For the remainder blocks, I glue 5 together end to end, and I make 4 sets. Once the glue has dried, I'm going to glue the 4 sets of blocks, standing upright on the corners of the rectangle like so. To make the sides of this lantern, I'm going to measure and mark a bamboo stick from one end of a vertical block to the other. I'm going to measure and cut 5 for each side. You can also use popsicle sticks, dowels, or skewers. Once everything has been measured and cut, I hot glue the sticks onto the blocks, spacing them out evenly. I decided to use the bamboo sticks for the base, and I cut out 7 for the base. I spaced them out evenly and then I glue them down. Since we are heading towards winter, I decided to put several of these wooden snowflakes from the Dollar Tree onto the lantern. I cover up the hole with spackle, and then I paint it with white acrylic paint. And then I give it a light sanding. I glue the snowflakes onto the wider side of the lantern, and I just decided to glue 2 on the front. And we are done. A gorgeous lantern, perfect for this time of year, and so easy to make. I'm going to use 2 feet of wood, a couple of these square wood planks from Dollar Tree, 4 tumbling tower blocks, and 1 5-gallon paint stir stick. And I'll be staining the wood with the shade Early American from Varathane. But before I do that, I'm going to cut this 24-inch wood right in the middle so that they are both 1 foot long. I stand one board up and glue a tumbling tower block laid on its side towards the bottom, making sure the bottom is flush and even. And I do the same thing on the other 1-foot board. Next, I lay the wood down and I measure and mark about 2.5 inches from the top. I mark both of the wood, and you really want to make sure they are marked evenly. I apply glue on the wide side of a block and I place that where I marked, and I glue down the other block as well. I make sure the blocks are positioned evenly, and this is why I often prefer using wood glue, not only for the strong hold it gives, but it also gives me a little wiggle room to reposition wood if needed. Initially, I was only going to use 2 of these wood squares, but they are so thin, so a little hack I like to do with these to make them look thicker is to glue 2 together. You'll need to clamp these together and make sure they dry completely. And look at that, they look so much better. I'm going to stain the wood in the shade Early American by Varathane. This is such a beautiful stain that brings out the wood patterns, and it has a warm undertone. Before staining the squares, I do give it a good sanding all over to smooth it out and remove any glue that seeped out. But unfortunately, even with sanding, I did miss some areas, and so to fix that, I take a little sanding paper and sand the area where the glue has dried. Then I take the cloth that has stain already on it and I wipe that over the sanded area. And look at that, much better than before. To assemble, I hold up the 2 long boards with the blocks facing each other. I apply glue on the top edge of the tumbling blocks. Now I did sand those areas down a bit just to remove some of the stain. Then I place a wood square right on top. And I'm using this carpenter square that I got from Dollar Tree to make sure it's centered, which happens to be the perfect width. Then I apply glue on the top blocks and place the second wood square on top. To finish the top, I place a 5-gallon paint stir stick that was actually a piece cut up from a prior project. I place that on top, measure, mark, and cut, and then I stain it and glue it on the top, and we are done! Wow, I really love how this turned out. A beautiful, rustic-looking open lantern, simple and stunning. Hey everyone, hope you are doing well. I am so excited to share with you this stunning lantern DIY. It's a perfect decor to brighten up your home, and it only cost a few dollars to make. For this project, you will need 75 tumbling blocks, which I got at Dollar Tree. Now, one box comes with 72 blocks, so rest assured you will have plenty left over for another amazing project. You'll also need a straight edge and glue. You can use hot glue if you desire, but I highly recommend using a good quality wood glue on this one. So here I'm gluing 5 blocks together, and I'm going to make 8 of these. And once that's done, I glue 3 blocks together and I make 8 of those as well. Next, you will need 2 spools of Dollar Tree's jute cord, and just like the blocks, you will have plenty left over for another amazing project when you're done. So I'm going to wrap the blocks with a cord. I dab hot glue on one end and then I start wrapping. Now I like to apply hot glue all around in the beginning, at least for the first few rows. Then I apply a few dabs here and there, and especially all around where the 2 blocks meet, just to seal it even more. There's quite a bit of fraying, too much for my liking, so after I finished wrapping, I did take a candle lighter and quickly and very carefully waved it over the cord until those frayed areas melted away. I always do this over my kitchen sink just to be safe. You can also go outside and do it over the barbecue grill. Otherwise, with a good pair of scissors, just trim out those frayed areas. For the smaller blocks, you will need to completely cover it, including the sides, so I do the same thing and apply hot glue on one end, and once that's completely covered, instead of stopping, I keep going. I apply a little hot glue on the top part and slowly and carefully wind and press it down. And it's going to kind of look like an oval spiral. Now it's important to press down as you're winding so that it'll lay flat and not bulge out. Then I cut the cord and work on the other end. I find it easier to wind from the outer end working inward as opposed to the inner end winding out. Now I did end up completely covering all 8 of the smaller blocks, but you really only need to cover 4 of them. That was an oversight on my part, because as you'll see later, you're not even going to see the ends of the other 4. I'm going to form a rectangle with the smaller blocks, so I hot glue them like so, and in the end I will have 2 rectangles, one for the top and one for the base. Next, I work on the larger blocks and I hot glue them together so that they form an L shape, and I'll make 4 of these. So I hot glue them down onto the rectangle base, then I add hot glue on the top of each L-shaped block and quickly and carefully place the last rectangle on top. You'll need 12 Super Jumbo craft sticks to make the base and lid cover. To make the base, place the jumbo craft sticks side by side, then lay the lantern on top and mark with a pencil. And this is the area that will be cut. I glue the sticks together, and once that's dry, I apply hot glue on the bottom of the lantern and place it down on the craft sticks. Then I repeat to make the lid. I measure, cut, and glue together the remaining craft sticks. To make sure they don't fall apart, I glue 4 smaller craft sticks onto the lid like so. I glue 6 tumbling blocks together to form a rectangle, then I glue it down onto the craft sticks. And on top of that, I glue 5 blocks, making sure that they are evenly spaced out. For the handle, I braid jute cord. You can also use jute rope, and I secure that to the sides of the rectangle with hot glue. Then I hot glue jute cord all around the bottom base as well as the lid, and you really don't have to, but this gives it that finishing touch and makes it look well put together. And one more detail that can't be missed, I take bamboo skewers and I measure them diagonally like so, then cut and hot glue them in place to make an X. And we're done! How beautiful this turned out! I absolutely love this piece, and I hope you do too. Thank you for watching, take care, until next time, bye-bye. For this DIY, I will be using this beautiful 6.5-inch textured jar which I got at the Dollar Tree. I'll also be using a couple feet of this jute cord. So first, I'm going to cut out about 8 strands of jute cord about 6 inch in length. I'm going to be gluing these vertically around the jar. So to glue, I just add a dab of hot glue to the top and bottom of the jar. I space them out equally. This jar has a square shape, so I start at the center of each side. And after that, I glue the corners. You can certainly glue more strands if you like as well. Then I turn it over and trim off the jute cord where it's sticking out beyond the length of the jar. Then I take some cord and wrap it a couple times around the neck of the jar, and I secure with hot glue. Then I measure and cut 2 strands of cord, which I will wrap horizontally around the jar, and I space them about 1 inch or so apart. And finally, I wrap the cord a couple times around the base. To make the handle, I will be using this wired jute cord and cotton twine from the Dollar Tree. I cut out the size I want for the handle, about 12 inches, and I shape it into a handle. And then I wrap the cotton twine on the ends. I go about 1/2 inch up and I secure it with hot glue. Then I glue that onto the jar. Since winter is coming soon, I wanted to embellish with this wooden snowflake cutout from the Dollar Tree. I paint it with white acrylic paint. Then I lightly sand it, focusing mostly on the edges. I tie the little string that it came with through the hole, and then I use a skewer to push that through the jute cord. You can definitely customize these wood cutouts depending on the season. I place this little tea light candle holder inside and I'm done. DIY, you will need 4 frames as well, and again I'm using the same type of frame from DIY number 1 and 2, so no painting needed. I remove the backing board and the glass on all 4, and you can paint the back if you want, but I left them as is. I apply glue on the back edge of one frame like so, and I connect the side of another frame to make a right angle, and I'm using E6000 on this project. I apply glue on another end and place another frame onto that as well. I clamp it to hold it in place, and I apply glue on the final frame. You want to make sure that the frames are glued exactly the same position as the frame on the opposite side. Once that's on, I clamp it and let it dry completely. For the base, I'm going to be using 6 Super Jumbo Craft Sticks. I cut them to about 6 1/4 inches and I paint them white with Waverly chalk paint. There's a little slot in the bottom to place the sticks in, so I add a little glue on the edge of the sticks and I place them down. And I am done. I love how this turned out. I didn't have to paint the frames, so it was a very quick and easy project. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed these DIYs. They're perfect decor for spring or any time of the year, and you can easily customize them to your style. Have a wonderful week. Bye!